Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's presentation. We are so happy to provide you with another edition of our design development series. Tonight's presentation, Success is in the Details, will give you a good insight as to how we approach our projects and how we're able to find success in the process. Part of tonight's presentation we'll sort of dive in a little deeper into our design development process, kind of how we'll show you how we take a project from conceptual design all the way through to construction, and of course, how the details can help give you more information, more insight as to how to have a successful project. We're going to take just a couple minutes here to let some people trickle in. We're very proud to have a really good group tonight. So we're just going to give them a couple more minutes to come on in and settle into the room. Just a little bit about us while we wait for some of our guests tonight. So Hartman Baldwin is a full service design build firm. We specialize in residential remodeling and custom home building. We've been around quite a bit. We've been around since 1984. And even though myself and the presenter tonight haven't been here since 1984, it sure feels like it. We've been here a bit. We've had the privilege of working on a lot of wonderful, beautiful, and notable projects. And tonight we'll get to show you a little bit about how we're able to, one, provide our clients with excellent full service designs, and of course the management and the project supervision that every project requires to have a successful project. A little bit about our presenter tonight. Let's see if we can go to the next slide. Oh, there I am. My name's Carla Rodriguez. Your presenter tonight is Bill Judson. He's one of our design build consultants and also one of our architects here at Hartman Baldwin, who's led many notable projects with our firm. So excited to have him join us tonight. There are going to be a lot of different things for us to look at today. Feel free to join us and ask any questions you may have. You'll see at the bottom of your screen there, a Q&A button is also a chat button. Feel free to add your questions there, anything that you think may be helpful to the group to hear. We have a few others on the line today to help with answering those questions. And then of course the chat, feel free to add your comments on that chat as well. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Bill, and I'll catch you guys a little bit later towards the end.
Well, thank you, Carla. Yeah, Carla and I have had the pleasure of working together for quite some time now and seen some great projects. So thank you very much. All right, well, welcome everybody. We're going to be talking about successes in the details tonight. I want to just spend a little bit about what does that mean, success in the details? I mean, for us, success is when, well, let me put it for you. What is success for you? Oftentimes that is, we all want the beautiful home, a home that we walk into and just feel like, oh, this is my place. This is my safe place. This is my warm place. This is my comfortable place. And the other thing we want is when we're in this place, when we look around and see what we see, that our eye lands on things that we find delightful or beautiful and calming or exciting in some cases, depending on what it may be. And what I'm going to talk to you about tonight is the importance of how we get that success is looking at those details, okay? Because that's really at the end of the day, what you're going to see when you're in your home. And these are the things you're going to feel and touch and see. And so if we're not paying attention to them, someone is going to be paying attention to them, and we want to make sure that they're doing it the way that we want it to turn out. So I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to go pretty quick. I'm going to try and keep this to around a half hour, 40 minutes, leave some time for questions. For those of you that may have met me already, you know I have a passion and I'm able to talk a lot about home design and construction and remodeling design and construction but I'm going to encapsulate this for you real quick. And we're going to also show you ways that you can learn a little bit more about just this piece that we're talking about today. So if I talk overarchingly just for a moment about the whole process, how do we get to these beautiful homes that you may see behind me or homes on our website? And whether it's a whole home, like some of these that you see behind me, or a major remodel, we always go through the same process. And the process is broken up into these three main portions. The first is the conceptual design, okay? And conceptual design is quite unique to us, or at least the way that we do it. In the respect of what we're gonna do in this phase is look at all the possibilities that we can, spend time with you, understanding what you want, what you need, start doing some designing. And then also we're going to start looking at some costs very soon as well, which is something that's unique to us. And what we want to do is give you enough information that you have, so you have enough information to decide what you want to do, what the project is, and that it's the right amount of money for you to spend on that project. So that's what we're doing in the conceptual design, is really figuring out the big picture, okay? Now, once we have the big picture, we can get into the design development, this piece right here. And that's what we're gonna focus on tonight, because in the conceptual design, we're gonna get the big ideas, we're gonna get about what things are gonna cost. Now we need to focus on the details. Now we need to get down to the nitty-gritty, because once we have all of that, then we're ready to go into construction, and we have a better chance of success if we've taken the time to figure out all of the details. So let's talk a little bit more about this idea of design development, or, well, we'll go through the process. We talked about in design development there, we're gonna spend some time figuring out the details. I'll talk to you a little bit more about what I mean by details as we go through here. This is when we're gonna get the engineering done. Our interior designer joins the team, and we start picking out all of the materials, selections, specifications, so that we end up with a good set of working drawings, a good set of blueprints in our hands that now have all the details figured out. So now when we go into construction, there's less chance for not getting what you want. There's less chance for nightmares, and better chance to end up with your dream home if we've taken the time to do all of that. If you'd like to learn more about the process in general, these three steps, and talk more specifically, you can see if you go and visit our YouTube channel, Avoiding Remodeling Pitfalls, really sort of unpacks this whole process and takes a little bit more step-by-step overarching look at that process. All right, let's move on. So one of the things we want to think about is, what are some of the pitfalls? And these are some of the things that I hear when I'm out talking to people, and we start talking about getting a good set of plans, because those plans take time and they also cost money, and we all want to save both of those, right? But to our own peril, because we all know we may be saving time and money now, but we're going to have to pay that back at some point in the future. So I get the comments like, oh, we don't need detailed drawings. I want to save money on my drawings. And then, oh, we can figure out when we're in construction. Why do I need to worry about that now? When you get ready to put the tile in, I'll go pick out the tile. When you're ready for my kitchen faucet, I'll go pick out the kitchen faucet, right? We can figure, I decide things quickly. Okay, you may decide things quickly, but what if the thing you decided on is we need it in a couple days and it's got a 2-month lead time, right? That's going to narrow your decisions pretty quick and make you make a decision quickly, because we're going to have to go pull something off the shelf at Home Depot, right? So we don't want all of that, right? We're going to take more of an approach of, let's plan the work so that we can work the plan, okay? All right, so let's move on and look at what that means. Now, one of the reasons, one of the things that you're going to hear about is this sort of basic set of plans, right? And I think part of the problem that we're in that, and the reason that we latch onto this temptation of saving time and money, is because everybody has different needs when they look at a set of plans, right? We go through the conceptual design development. There's going to be several people that need these plans to make this project get out of the ground and become the success that we want it to be. And the people that have the lowest amount of needs on these plans are our cities, our jurisdictions, okay? And I think this is where people get excited, say, well, just get me the permit, I'll figure out the rest, right? So when we talk about what city officials need, or county officials, depending on your jurisdiction, they're just looking at the plans to see if they comply with their codes. Are you complying with the planning code? Are you complying with building and safety, electrical, mechanical, all of that good stuff? They don't really care what you picked for your floor, or how your crown molding looks, or what type of light switches or what types of lights you have, or countertops or anything like that. They just want to make sure that when the building is built, it's going to protect, as they put it, the health and safety of their citizens. Okay. Now, if we go a step further, the people that are actually there building your home are going to need the plans, right? We need to know how big things are, how tall things are, where they go. But the details really illustrate more how things come together, or how they're finished. Okay. And if we don't have it on the drawings, that person that's out there with their mortar trowel or the hammer and nail, they're the ones that are going to decide how that thing's going to be finished and how it's going to look. And is that the person that we want to be making those decisions? Probably not. Another person that needs the plans is a cost estimator. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you examples here in a minute, but a cost estimator, they are going to go in there and they're going to look at your plans and start pricing things out. And so, for example, if in your kitchen it calls out for a tile floor, that estimator may put in what the last project he had they spent on tile floor, or maybe the lowest tile floor they could get, or who knows, right? So unless we've figured out that detailing and given that person that amount of detail that they can figure out an accurate cost, they're going to be filling in the blanks. Okay. Now, who do we want filling out the blanks? Probably you, maybe with your designer, right? Because you, of all of these people, probably need the most detail in these plans. Most of the people we work with have built a home once or done a major remodel once, and they're not real familiar with reading a set of plans, or even know what needs to be on the set of plans. But if you find a good designer and a good design build team that works through that with you, that can illustrate that to you, can show you that detail, then you can react and make decisions and start designing the project the way that you want it to be, not someone else filling in the blanks. Okay. So I'm going to talk, there's this idea of a basic level of services versus full service. And there's, it's a spectrum. It's not an extreme, but I'm going to talk in extremes just to illustrate the point tonight. If we talk about basic design services, okay, these are the ones that I talked about. Hey, get me the permit and then I'll figure out the rest, right? I get this, hey, can you just give me a set of plans that I can go get approved at the planning department, the building department? I'll take those and I'll figure it out because I want to go faster and it's going to be less expensive. But you notice how we put a question mark here. Is it going to be faster? Is it going to be less expensive? Well, that's a gamble you're taking, okay? Because like I mentioned, we don't know. What if we get to the point and one of your quick decisions ends up with something that's a long lead time, okay? Or what if someone puts something together and it's not the way you wanted it and they have to take it all out just to put it back in the way that you want it, right? That's not cheaper or faster because the plans they've lacked that amount of detail that we need to understand and describe the project, It's hard to get good, accurate cost estimates because like I mentioned our cost estimators looking at it and they're looking at, oh, okay, we need 4 slabs of granite or stone or whatever it may be for your kitchen and bathrooms. Slabs cost about $1,000, but maybe the one that you go to pick out is $2,500 each, and we need 5 of those, right? So it's hard to get good costs together unless we figured out the details and have everything picked out, because that's when we can start to have cost overruns and the schedule delay. And really the biggest nightmare that probably a lot of people have is losing control of the project. That now I've got to make decisions because we're working on the house. I don't have a good set of plans, but we got to keep moving. We got to get this house done. And you're making decisions at a time that you may not be thinking the clearest as you would have had we done it sooner on in the project. Now, if we start to talk about a full service design, right, a level of full service, what does that mean? Well, not only do we have very detailed drawings that have all of the architectural details, okay, but we also have a scope of work, right? So now we're starting to describe things that aren't necessarily on the plans. So scope of work on the kitchen floor, we have a tile floor. Okay, well, now what is that tile? What is the coping and the baseboard or whatever it is that needs to go in there? So we'll start to put that information in a scope of work, or you'll hear me use the word schedules later. A schedule is what has some more of that detail. It's all of the engineering that needs to get done, all of the interior design, okay, that helps us figure out all of those materials, renderings, and 3D models. If you look at this illustration right here, some of you probably looked at it and thought it was a real thing. That actually is a 3D computer model that we use to illustrate, hey, how does this space feel? You know, and we can trade out, what if we did wood cabinets versus the painted cabinets? What if we did a dark countertop versus a light countertop? What if we did a different detail on this hood? What if we did a different type of backsplash here? We can play around and really dive deep into a lot of these things and spend time with you to see what can be done. What are my options? How cool could this be, right? And we've got a lot of tools to help you walk through that, so you don't have to be making all those decisions on your own, even if you make decisions quickly. Because now we've got a good amount of detail, okay? Now we've got some accountability to the design. If you're building your home and you come in and you're like, oh my gosh, that's not the way the crown molding was supposed to be, now you've got something to point to and say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Carpenter, this drawing right here shows you the way it should be, okay? So you need to take that out and do it the way that it was designed, okay? We also get that reliable cost information. And now we're staying in control of the project, right? Now we're working the plan, and the drawings that we have give us that roadmap. All the unknowns, or most of the unknowns, are removed because we picked everything out. We know what those lead times are. We know how everything needs to come together, and we have something to refer to, so that if it's not looking quite the way that we wanted it to, we can go back to that and say, hey, this is the way we talked about. And this is the way that during a construction period, you can have that peace of mind that we can end up with something beautiful, and that at the end of the project, you can walk in and go, I love my home. This is exactly as I pictured it turning out to be. The other thing that when we talk about full service is design support, design supervision during construction, okay? This is another thing that very quickly gets lopped off of a scope of services from a design point of view. But the thing you need to realize is, one, there's no perfect set of drawings, okay? As much as we try, and as much as I'm gonna tell you about how great our drawings and design are, we're never perfect. There's gonna be questions. There's gonna be things that come, unforeseen things that come up in construction. And so you wanna have that person that you've spent all of that time, all of that emotion, all of the communication back and forth to figure out this design, to be there with you, so that when it doesn't quite come in together the way you want, or maybe you want to think of a change or something like that, we may say, hey, we're thinking about making this window in my bedroom bigger, but the designer may come in and say, you know what, remember, you bought that brand new headboard that's about 5'6" tall. And if we move that window down, your headboard, the headboard's just going to block it, right? So we want to maintain that continuity, have someone to go to that you can ask design questions, and not be left with someone there on the job site saying, well, that's not what's drawn. I'm going to do it what's drawn. Okay. You also have key meetings, job walk, where we can, before we start construction, we'll have all of our subs coming out. You have a chance to talk to them about, hey, could you look at my ducts up in the attic while you're taking a look around? Electrical, cabinetry, plumbing, silly thing, right? But I have to admit, I made this mistake. One time I hired a plumber to retile my shower and replace the shower valve and shower head. And he got the shower head all in, and I came home from work and it was about this tall. So I had to go under it to get it. And I said, what gives? Well, that's the way it was before, he said. And, he's just doing it the way it was easy to do. Well, I wanted it overhead. Okay. And we hadn't thought about talking about that. One, it should have been in the drawings. And two, going around and looking at every single plumbing fixture. Is it as high as we want? Is the faucet spread the amount that we want? All of our electrical, are the switches where we want them? Are they the kind of switches that we want? So that you don't have that feeling of coming home, being excited and seeing what was done and then being disappointed, right? We want to be excited and go, oh, this is coming together just the way that we talked about. So we can have those progress meetings too and see how it's coming along. And like I talked about, all of that time you spend in design, we want to make sure that's continuous all the way through construction. Because in design is when you're spending the time thinking about and figuring out what you want. So why would we just drop that when we start construction? Very, very important. Okay. Now, if we talk about design services from a Hartman Baldwin point of view, what we do is we like to assemble a team around you as we're going through the process. So it generally will start with someone like myself, a design build consultant, or some of you may have met Jesse or Carla in our office. And in ours, the design build leader team is sort of a team leader, right? Where we're going to be the ones that are going to come out and really listen to you at the beginning. What do you want? What are you trying to accomplish? What's your vision here? See if we're a good fit for each other. If we start working together, then we'll have an architect join the team, okay? And this is the person that takes those wants and needs and starts to draft them into the space, draft them into some design ideas so that we can bring those with you. We also have full-time estimators. So how helpful is it if when you get designs, you're also getting costs? Or if you're in design development and you're walking, you're out shopping for tubs one day and you find, oh my God, there's a jacuzzi tub. Maybe I want that. Well, okay, it's not just the tub, it's the motor, it's the circuit. So having an estimator say, you want to think about changing something? Okay, great. Well, let's give you a cost on that. So before you make the decision. And then we have interior designers as well that join the team. And these are very well trained, experienced professionals that are going to help kind of take the vision and all of the details, all the finishes, and bring them together and help you pick all of those things out, because if you haven't gone through it before, all of my clients are just blown away, sometimes overwhelmed with the amount of decisions that need to be made. And sometimes, we feel like, oh, I can make those decisions, but where do I go? Are these good prices? Is it good quality? Is the backsplash going to match with the floor? How's the floor in the kitchen work with the floor in the... So these are professionals that can pull all of that together, that know where to go to find all of these things for you and make sure it looks just the way that you're hoping for. And then finally, as we get closer to construction, we have a project manager that joins the team. And this person then starts to look at the plans and the detailing to make sure, okay, can this be built? Gives us the idea of schedule. And then they will be responsible for managing the construction, bringing it all, putting it all together just the way that we're after. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more specifically in design development. In conceptual design, again, remember, we've kind of got the idea, we've got the general form idea and everything. Now we're going to start getting more specific. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and forth between, some plans, a plan that I got one time, someone wanted us to build a house for them that was the basic set, right? And then we're going to compare that to a full set. All right. So on your left, my left too, is what I'd call a basic plan. And then on the right is what I would call is a fully developed detailed plan. And I know you can't see too much detail right now. I'm going to zoom in a minute, but even just at a bird's eye view, you can see the amount of detail is quite a bit different. Okay. So on that plan that had less detail, this was the kitchen design. This was the way it was given to us. Okay, we want you to build our house. Here's the kitchen. Okay, now I'm not sure how many people are on the webinar right now, but I would venture to say that if all of you look at this floor plan of a kitchen, every single one of you is picturing a different kitchen. All right. So part of figuring out the details is making sure that we're all on the same page, okay? Because right now, if you look at this island right here, it's just a square on the plan, right? We don't know anything more about that. We don't know, is that a cabinet underneath it? Does it have legs? How thick is the countertop? What color is the countertop? And then we've got all of this too, just a blank square on what that is. We've got a box with an X in it right here. Who knows what that is? I can tell that this is a range or a cooktop, right? Could be either one. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know how to figure out how to know what that is. My guess is that this is a sink. Okay, which would make that a dishwasher. But if I'm out there trying to build this, I'm guessing at all this. And if I want to keep things moving, not only am I guessing on all of it, I'm going to make that assumption and move ahead with it. Okay, so we want to make sure that whoever is out there doing that work isn't the one that's designing it because the design has already been done, right? We don't want the carpenter or the cabinet maker to design my kitchen. We want you and your designer to design that kitchen. So let's look at the contrast. Let's look at now. Here's what I would call a more developed plan. Okay, we see a little bit more detail on the island right here. Okay, we've got this cool piece. This is if you remember the 3D model we showed previously, this is the kitchen from there. Okay, but now we've got a lot more detail too. Here, okay, it says we actually have a range. And then if you look at these little call outs, you'll see an A02, A01. I'm going to show you in a minute that refers to another sheet that's going to tell us exactly what that is. Okay. And you can see here we call out the new fridge and freezer, and then a little call out. I'm going to go and see what A05 is, and I'm going to know exactly what that fridge or freezer is. Same thing with the sink, the dishwasher, everything that's going on in here. And then I'm going to point out one other thing, this little diamond right here. And if you haven't ever read a plan, what we're going to do here is if you see this A5.1, I'm going to go to that sheet, and then on these A1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to see a drawing like just came up, right? So this drawing that we looked at, you can see A1 here. Okay. And that responds to A1 here. So I'm standing here kind of right in front of the island looking at my kitchen wall. Whoa, now this is starting to take shape. Now I get a sense of what this looks like, because now I can see, hey, what is the shape? Oh, wow, I've got this cool hood. Okay, I can see how the range sits with the countertop. I can see my backsplash. I can see I've got some open shelves. Okay, great. This is just the way I want it. I've got this beautiful arch window with the light above. I can see the detailing on the cabinetry. Now I really get a sense that, okay, yeah, this is what I want. I really don't have that much more to figure out, and there's not much wiggle room in here for someone that's going to be building this. All right, let's keep going. So we showed you an interior elevation, and I'm just showing you a couple of sheets here where we see the basic. And I know you guys can't see a lot of detail, but I think even from your kind of bird's eye view that you're getting right now, if you look at the basic versus the fully developed interior design, you can just see the amount of detail that is in that full design, where I'm seeing tile patterns, I'm seeing wainscot heights, I'm seeing the call outs for all of those materials. And then I think even in the next one, we're going to see another interior elevation with more detail as well. Oh no, we're going to see the bad one first, the basic, right? So here's a basic. Here's my bathroom. I've got 16 by 16 wall tiles, 4-inch tile trim. I've got a lavatory, a WC, and a bathtub, and my WC is 15 inches away from my bathtub. That's all I'm learning on this drawing, right? I don't know what that wall tile is. I don't know what that trim is. You know, I know how tall it is, and I know how high my ceiling is. But if you look at the next slide, you're going to see something more fully developed where, okay, now we've actually gone and we've picked the tile and we're showing the tile layout, right? Nothing's more frustrating than a tile when you get all this work done and you end up with this tiny little edges all the way around, right? So we want to do away with that. We want to see, you know, what are my medicine cabinets? What is the detailing on the cabinetry itself, you know? And then here you can see as well, if I hope you can see, calls out for the green tile. And here's one of those little call outs, right? So on another page, I'm going to be able to go and see, okay, S06, what tile, what manufacturer, what color, all of that level, okay? And this was a project that, hey, they wanted this nice high level of detail in their tile work, but we didn't want to leave it to the tile maker to make all of that up, you know? And we had these fun details here, okay, where around the tub with this arch top, so you can see the detailing that shows whoever's going to build that, what that needs to be, how that needs to look. And more importantly, it's giving you a sense of what is my bathroom going to look like when I'm standing there at the vanity, okay? And do I like this? Is this the direction I'm going? Oh, no, Bill, let's make this little change here. I'd rather see the wainscot be the same height as the countertop instead of up above, up by the medicine cabinets, right? You're in control, right? You're able to see this, and the way we're giving you this level of detail puts you in more and more control. All right. Same thing when we talk about exterior elevations. In fact, it's, you know, maybe even more important because we've got so much going on the exterior of the home, so much more space. You've got a similar thing on the basic elevation. I mean, I can see how tall things are and that I've got some windows and maybe some sliders. And when we look on the right, I can start to see, okay, how are these materials working together? Not just how big things are and where windows are, but what are those materials? And in fact, what we'll do is, you know, this is a drawing that gets submitted for approval at the city, but you probably need more information, more detail on what your house is going to look like. And so there's oftentimes an interim step. This shows you again the basic versus more developed. We can move on from this. There you can see where you start to see again, we see more call outs, more detail. You know, if we were to zoom in there a little bit, you would see the way that the shingles, the shingle pattern and the overlap. But what I'd really like to show you is the interim step where before we get to that point where we're just submitting to the city or the county, we need to show you a little bit more. And so how do we do that? You know, because you may not be perceiving everything that you need with this kind of drawing right here. Oh, I jumped ahead. Schedules. I promise I'm gonna show you something like that in a minute here. So specifications and schedules. Schedules, it's the architect term or the building term for kind of our list of materials, right? So a basic set is going to be like a window schedule is going to be required by the city, like the one that you see here. And I can see, okay, what the size of the window is. I can maybe see what it is. Here's where I'm going to see more information on it. But really, this just has only the information that the city needs, right? Is this a wood window? Is it an aluminum window? Is it a clad window? You don't even really know what it is by this, other than I do see, okay, it is aluminum, dual glazed, but where am I getting it? What's the lead time, right? We still have a lot of questions around that. So if we look at a more detailed schedule, this one happens to be appliances. So if you remember in the kitchen, when we had these little symbols, like this one says A05, well, okay, that's my dishwasher. Oh, okay, that's a dishwasher made by Thermador. Yeah, it's a panel front. I want a wood front on that. Where am I going to get it? Okay. And oftentimes too, if we're worried about the lead time, as we are now in so many cases, we'll put that lead time on there as well. So now again, no guesswork. We know exactly what you want, where to get it, how to achieve success for your project. Then we get into even more detail, right? So this is an elevation of a hallway of a home that we worked on. And you can see we wanted to show, okay, what does that whole thing look like? But we may also want to go a little bit closer, because you can see we have this nice wainscot and these doors. And then it comes over here into this opening. And I want to see what's going on with this cool column detail right here. Okay, well, I want to be specific about that, because that's what's really creating the character of the home, are all of these little details. So if we zoom into that detail, now I can start to see, okay, what does that look like? You know, how big are things, right? What sort of, what sort of trim do I have? How does this, we want to make sure that this aligns all the way down, even down to the point where we've called out a specific molding that's coming in here, right? And what size of the trim. So making sure that, these details are what's going to define the character of your home. They're going to give you that feeling of when you're in your home and you're looking around and your eye lands in some area, that's what's going to give you the feeling, oh, this is so beautiful. This is just what I wanted. So we don't want to mess that up. And then here you can see the way that detail actually ended up in sight, right? In situ. And we had, I don't know, several dozen of these things throughout the house. So we wanted to get it right and make sure it was executed right. Okay, so this is a home I'm going to just talk a little bit about. This was a home that we worked on. I mean, you can see it right here, actually, too, another photograph of it. And I'm going to show you a before picture in a minute. It's drastically different, okay? So one of the other things about getting through the details is how you're going to communicate with your designer, okay? Because here, if you look at the before shot of that house, it's drastically different than it looks now, okay? So from a designer's point of view, we may have this vision, we may have this thought, this idea, and how do we communicate that to you, and then get communication back from you to make sure that we're not just designing something that we think is cool, but it's something that you want as well. And nowadays we have so many great tools. We can create 3D models and renderings and look at it in all sorts of different ways, right? Because this is that house while we were in design, we made a 3D model of it, and you could see, whoa, this is so different than the original house. So being able to create this thing and not just look at it in those flat elevations like I've been showing you so far, but to make it in 3D and give you a chance to really look at it. What does this look like from the sidewalk? What does it look like as I'm driving up to my home? And then we've got something that we can show you, use this as a form of communication and get reaction back from you, okay? And then once we start to really get into it now, all right, let's start really looking at this, because this house was complicated from a finish point of view, all right? I mean, we can see the amount of different finishes in here. So if you were to go around here, you would see, okay, what type of window is this? Okay, what is that planter box made out of? What else? What color of stucco do we have here? All of that kind of thing, and actually then render it as close as possible as it's going to be in real life. So when we talk about details, it's not just making sure we understand how things come together and how they're finished, but using tools to make sure we're looking at the details with you so that you end up with what you want, because that's where success is going to be. When you partner with someone like us and we're able to bring our experience and expertise and design acumen and pair that up with your desires, with your wants and needs and your style, the success is when you end up with a project like this. Now, this may or may not be your style, but for this particular client, they were super happy. Okay, this is just what we wanted. We wanted a complete transformation and something very unique. And this is what we got. And they were extremely happy and loved driving up to their house every night. I do want to just see if we had a chance for any questions, or if anybody would like to offer up any questions or anything. Obviously, the sun is setting in my window, and so it's a little blinding. Okay, so what I'd like to do is take just a couple of minutes as we wrap up and mention a couple of things. One of the things I'll mention, if you have a chance, well, stay in touch with us. You know, you'll see at the bottom, you can stay in touch with us through all of the socials. If you're interested and this particular webinar was helpful to you, go to our YouTube channel. We've got several other webinars on there. One of the reasons that we do this webinar is we found that the more that you're educated, the more knowledge base that you have, whether you work with us or not. But I've just found that our clients that have had a chance to look at these webinars, maybe spend some time with us, looking at some of our work, that things just go much smoother. You know, so if you're up to speed and that much better knowledge about what's going on, the more chance we have for success. And really, that's the way we can kind of go a little bit quicker, a little bit faster. So one of the things we have coming up on April 26th, we're going to have a construction showcase. This will be virtual as well. We're going to be taking a closer look at the house you see on the right, the Hill residence, and talking a little bit about the process as it was applied directly to this project, show you some of the cool, beautiful things that we did in this home to really heighten the character of it and create a family home for a couple of our clients. We'll have a really good level of information for you there. And then stay in touch. We'll have more of these. If you're interested in learning more about us, make sure we know how to stay in touch with you. You can call us, go on our website, schedule it online. And I mentioned all the socials, we're on there as well. So even if we don't end up working together, stay in touch. You know, we may be able to help each other out. You may learn a little bit more, and hopefully we do end up working together and have a great, successful project. So I want to thank you all for your time tonight. I hope it was helpful. And again, thank you all very much. Stay in touch, and I wish you all success in your details. All right. Good night, everybody.